Oi, oi, all right, all right. How's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is the Doodle Review coming through with a new album to give a spin, chat some fraff about, and then assign an arbitrary score to. Today, we're going to talk about the latest from Hayley Williams. I am just, like I said last episode, just like pumping these reviews out like really quick, no visuals. It's a bit dry, but it's just the only way I can keep this channel going at the moment. But if you want to see reviews from like other genres and stuff like that, my newsletter goes out weekly. It's where I will be recording my thoughts on, different styles and smaller artists that you might not see here. But without further ado, let's chat Hayley Williams. So Paramore was a band I admittedly slept on for years. They emerged in the mid 2000s when I was a teenager, and at the time in the UK, if you were like into rock music at all, you were either in like an emo or an indie kid. And I was kind of on my own trip, but if I was like forced into a category, it would have been indie. Bands from the emo scene just came with so much like earnestness and performative individualism that I just couldn't really be asked. It wasn't my scene. While I'm sure there might be others, Paramore are really the only band like I've come to realize I gave like short shrift to over that period. I've not gone through all of their work, but the hits are huge. And their 2023 record, This Is Why, was a brilliant fusion of commercial rock and post-punk. As a frontwoman, Hayley Williams' vocal talent is like immediately recognizable, and her stage presence can like easily captivate those lucky enough to catch her in a live setting. But what isn't so easy to glean for casual fans is her fondness for experimentation. The abrupt left turn Paramore took into pop disco with their After Laughter album should really have given it away, but given the nature of the change, it was perhaps kind of too easy to write that one off as a play for commerciality rather than experimentation. It was Williams' first solo release back in 2021, Flowers for Vases, that alerted me to the artist's desire to really explore different tones and styles. And I remember the record as this eclectic, kind of minimalist folk electronica, but actually revisiting it, it's more straightforward than I perceived it at the time. The album is predominantly an intimate acoustic offering, and I realize now that my perception of it as being something that's a little bit more out there came from just two tracks. The first of those, My Limb, is this tense, restrained, jagged groove with a kind of almost robotic chorus vocal that, despite its weirdness, is extremely catchy. And the second is KYRH, an atmospheric piano track with a breathy, mantra like vocal from Williams. Those two songs gave me a whole new perspective on Hayley Williams as an artist. And I think it subconsciously set the stage for This Is Why to kind of hit me as hard as it did, and is also the reason the genre deviations and genre flexing on ego death at a bachelorette party have gone down so smoothly for me. Where Flowers gave us just a glimmer, this latest solo release fully displays Williams as an artist with a really porous sensibility, taking in all of these influences, adapting, adopting, and channeling them into different forms. Some of these interpolations or interpretations are like a reach, maybe feel a bit disingenuous and fall flat, but a lot of them work. And it leads to a really dynamic, engaging listen, which for an hour-long record is an achievement in and of itself. One of the recurring styles on this LP is a kind of turn of the millennium pop that totally taps the nostalgia side of my brain. Kill Me, Disappearing Man, True Believer, and Dream Girl in Shibuya remind me of an artist like Dido and others of that era. There was just a period of time back then where pop production seemed to lift a bunch of stuff from the more kind of underground trip hop scene that was happening at the time, but kind of like inverted it into something brighter and lighter. At the time, that was probably seen, as the height of cringe by people, into real music. But in hindsight, it gave the pop of this time like this subtle depth that I think you hear a lot of on the tracks that I just mentioned. Speaking of the millennium, in probably the strangest sample of 2025, Williams interpolates the chorus of Bloodhound Gang's 1999 hit Bad Touch on Discovery Channel. And here the juvenile lyrics are taken into this kind of spacey, melancholic place with acoustic guitars and far off synthesizers. It really works. But then, as I discovered on a podcast dedicated to that Bloodhound Gang track, the chord progression of the original is kind of way deeper than you remember. So the translation here was probably a little bit easier than you think. That's not to say the record is only looking to the distant past. Hard pulls a bit of the ASMR darkness from Billie Eilish, while Glum does the kind of pitched up vocal thing that's become a little, chic in the years since Frank Ocean's Blonde. While all of this is going on, there's also some pretty just like straightforward singer-songwriter pop. And it's funny because obviously I'm talking to you now in a month that's become dominated by Taylor Swift discourse in the wake of her latest. And on Whim and Blood Brothers, Williams is doing the Swift thing just without the incessant pick me vibes of the world's wealthiest musician. Like I said, there are a couple of spots where Hayley Williams reaches for something that feels a touch awkward. I can't help but think of Lil Dicky in Ice in My OJ, where the singer goes for that kind of trap pop delivery of like, might go back to Mississippi. In a similar bum note, while you might say it's close to the disco of After Laughter, I find the slight leaning into reggae on Love Me Different just a bit, yeah, not for me. Those are really the only moments where this record doesn't work, though. The slight letdown when you realize Murtat Sapim is teasing a 90s grunge pop album that you'll never actually hear is soothed by the greatness of the song itself and the others it's surrounded by, albeit, in different musical styles. And even Brotherly Hate, which can initially feel a bit kind of simplistic, has its charm. This is a record from an artist who's clearly not scared of trying things out and whose instincts for trying those things are bang on a lot of the time. I've had a lot of fun with this album and think it has some of the best pop I've heard all year. I think if I'm going to put a slapper rating on it, I'm thinking an 8, probably an 8.1. But yeah, that's it. Time to knock it on the head. Let me know what you think. Are you a Paramore fan? Are you not? Are you a Hayley Williams fan? Have you given this album a chance? What do you think of it? Yeah, give me a shout. Check out my newsletter. It's linked in the description somewhere down there. Give it a look, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, mate. Take care. Oh, there you go. Cheers. Bye.